remember vividly seeing a girl that looked very much like me at her age, and seeing her personality like reminded me a lot of my own curiosity. So it really filled me with a lot of joy being able to show up for my community in that sense. It's like, oh, I see they're seeing someone who is in the engineering industry that look like them, and that for me it's everything. It is a great reminder for why I show up for my community, and part of my mission too. So
Well, hello, Jeyra. Welcome back to the Fire Code Tech Podcast. Glad to have you.
hello guys, it's so nice to see you and chatting with you again. How's it going?
Oh, it's been going pretty good. Been keeping busy, but yeah, I just wanted to, catch back up with you again. We've been chatting kind of offline and, corresponding on emails and just like mentoring and professional development. And so it seemed like you have a lot to share and had just been going through your career. And so I just wanted to pick your brain again on what's been going on with you professionally and otherwise.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I just wanted to start off with a question about, what kind of projects you've been getting involved with recently and, any challenges that you'd like to share with the listeners. And that might be too broad of a question. And if you want, I can spitball some of the random projects and things that I've been going through too. But yeah, what's been going on project wise?
Project wise, on my end, I have been, excuse me, involved with a lot of healthcare projects, also higher education, and I have other smaller projects when it comes to business occupancy, but for the most part it's been healthcare and higher education. Oh, and I also have an interesting community center in Racine,
Mm.
Wisconsin that I'm getting involved, which is very fun to deal with. And in about challenges, well, the fact I feel like the last time that we spoke, I was just getting started into this fire protection and life safety world, and it's been a learning curve, but it's been fun to get to understand holistically how this fire suppression, fire alarm, and life safety kind of holistically tied in together or glued together. It's been fun to learn.
Yeah, no, I hear you on the learning curve. I switched companies like last year, and I felt like I thought I had was done with the learning curve and being swamped and like, really just trying to figure out a whole new ball game. And I went through it last year for like the first 6 months of being in this new role. It was just like I was like, oh my gosh, like trying to figure it out just like technically and just personally, like how to be more accountable to myself and others. So I understand what you're talking about with just like when we were speaking last about like just trying to wrap your arms around it.
Yes.
But that's cool. Well, yeah, I've been working on recently this week. I had a university project and a several military projects, little small renovation jobs for the military. A lot of like renovations and kind of tenant improvement projects. They're little, but we since the fire protection is kind of written into the codes for fire and life safety, that's like a larger percentage of what we're involved with here. I've had a couple of VA jobs that are kind of more healthcare oriented, and I know how much more scrutiny they get. So I know that those can be challenging and just kind of provide a lot of different hazards or just code complications because they're kind of their own strange thing with the healthcare code and whatnot. But yeah, that's just kind of what I've been going through.
I
Maybe
have a
been
question
going through
for
too.
you. Um,
Sure.
how you briefly mentioned that transition in the first 6 months into your new role were challenging.
Yes.
Looking
Yes.
back, what was the biggest hurdle for you? Not hurdle, but challenge, I would say.
Sure. I think that the last position that I was working at um, didn't have as much, culturally, didn't have as much emphasis on detail and accuracy in every aspect, in written communication and verbal communication. And so me trying to get my skill set up to meaning what I'm saying and every word of what I'm writing was difficult. I mean, I basically was, learning like logically how to sequence arguments and how to, more technical writing. And so that was just difficult. I mean, that's not like a technical task. It's just kind of the basics. It's the basics and writings and fundamentals. And so that for me, I think was my biggest challenge, and it just took reps and time around my coworkers who are really smart and kind of picking apart how they do it and asking them, "Hey, what's your framework for you have this argument, like what do you want to put in here? Like how should you sequence it? What's the most effective way or like, to offer this communication?" And so I think that was probably my biggest hurdle. But what about you? What do you see as now that you're after that initial like kind of shell shock phase for, when we were talking last, like in retrospect, like what did you learn in that phase and what would you have done differently or would you have done anything differently?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the biggest ticket item for me would say the code, like interpreting, reading, understanding the code. For context, English is my second language, and I've learned
Mm,
it as an adult. So reading all these things in English, moreover, very technical concepts, and the way that the code, as you know, is written is very
yes.
complex. So that was very challenging for for the first, I would say, 2 or 3 months. I was like, I don't understand what I'm doing. I don't understand what I'm reading. What is going on here? And then I was bringing up this frustration to my manager, and he's like, "Are there any like manuals in Spanish?" And I'm like, "You men are a genius." So we look it up, and they're actually codes in Spanish. They IBC have a couple of standards in Spanish, so I ended up buying one of them, and I also bought 101 in Spanish and 13 and FBA 13 as well. So that really changed the game. If I would have changed anything, I would bought those from day one.
Yeah, I can only imagine. That has to be like I will stare at a code section. Yesterday I spent like 2 to 4 hours just like staring at maybe six different sections in the code and like being like, do I understand every one of these words in any way that you could flip them? So I can't imagine how difficult that would be is with English being your second language. That must be excruciating.
Yeah, funny enough, like it was the most challenging part at the time, but code interpretation and analysis is the part that I enjoyed the most today.
It's such like a main part of what we do is just this lawyering over terms and definitions and obviously there's much more to providing good fire and life safety for a building and understanding all the factors, but a lot of the time it's just looking at it and being like, do I even understand what this is saying? Sometimes I don't, or sometimes it conflicts and it doesn't make sense even if you do understand what it's saying.
Right.
So
And I love having these sanity checks with my senior engineers, my project engineers saying, "Hey, am I reading this properly? Does this make sense to you?" And it's like, yes or no, it should be this way instead. So that definitely leaning on people that knows more than me and being comfortable. Because I've had this conversation with other junior engineers about they are afraid almost about asking questions or looking like dumb or something like that. And I'm like, you don't know what you don't know. And I've come to learn that now is your time to ask all the questions. Like, you should always ask questions. But I feel like the earlier that you are in your career, have more permission to ask all type of questions. I don't care if the question sounds dumb or not. I still have the doubts, so please help me understand. That's kind of the mindset that had changed for me, and it has made things a little bit easier. And I wish more people with my years of experience kind of connect those dots too, because they will save so many headaches on their career.
definitely. Yeah, I think that that's one of your superpowers too, because that's how we connected. You asked me questions, and I bet that has been so good for your career to be able to ask questions because it is just essential. And I've been bad about in the past, like the reason or the psychology why I've not wanted to ask questions is like, well, I don't want to burden these people. I don't want to bug these people. I just am going to try to figure it out myself. And I end up wasting a bunch of hours on it. And, when my mentors have come back to me and they've said, hey, we'd rather you ask us instead of, you're going to make us more upset if you'd spend 20 hours on a question that we could have answered for you in 30 seconds, then, you know, so you're not like hurting people by asking questions. And so that was a hurdle that I had to overcome with that topic. So, if you're not asking questions or if you're afraid of asking questions, like try thinking about what is the internal reason for that, and maybe you just bring that up with your mentor and they might just shoot it down and be like, that doesn't make any sense, like I don't think like that, that's not the way reality is. So I know that you like to be involved in like different speaking engagements and like professional development communities. Can you tell me about some of the different professional society involvement that you've had recently?
Yes, so recently when was it? February, I had the opportunity to speak for high school, elementary, middle school, and high school students, specifically Latinos for the SHIP, that's Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. And that was very fun. It was my first time speaking with students that were not in college, like younger than that, and being able to tell my journey, since it was for Black History Month, having that Black Hispanic representation for these kids. I remember vividly seeing a girl that looked very much like me at her age, and seeing her personality like reminded me a lot of my own curiosity. So it really filled me with a lot of joy being able to show up for my community in that sense. It's like, oh, I see they're seeing someone who is in the engineering industry that look like them, and that for me it's everything. It is a great reminder for why I show up for my community, and part of my mission too. So that was fun. Another thing, I have been involved with a non-for-profit here in Chicago. It's called Latin Engineer. That is specifically to offer access, resources, and a network for Latinas pursuing not only engineering but also other fields within STEM. And we have an annual conference that happens in October. So we it's a whole year planification. So I'm also working with that too, and it's been fun. Keep working with it's the third year that I volunteer, so it's been very fulfilling as well to see not immediate but more faster results of the work that we're putting in, and how this conference keeps getting bigger and bigger, and now like companies sponsor employees to come to this conference, which is it's very fulfilling, and see how fast it's growing and how much we are setting the precedence, a good example for Latinas in engineering and STEM overall.
That's awesome. That's so cool that I love that high school involvement piece. I think that's so important for getting people interested in STEM and just a career. And like seeing somebody like you and speaking, I think that's so important because like that's how I got to this industry, is seeing somebody who's passionate and talking about cool project work and really being impacted by that is how I found the industry. So it's important for kids to see that, and I'm sure it makes like that might impact them for the rest of their life, being able to see you and hear about what you're doing and thinking that's cool. So I think that is so important on many levels. So I love hearing about that. And that Latin engineer group, that sounds interesting. I've not heard anything like that, but it's just kind of like bringing people, sponsoring people to come to the conferences, and also just like kind of partnering with businesses to facilitate those relationships. Is that how you would describe it?
So we offer online like workshops and different networking events throughout the year, but we also in the second week of October we offer a week. It's called an International Latin Engineer Week, where we offer different workshops related to professional, also academical, and network to how to pretty much be a whole, well-rounded professional within the industry as, as a Latina in this field. So it's offered for like either a lower cost or for free as well, so that we heavily rely on company sponsorship. And we also have a career fair too. This is the second year that we have a career fair as well, so we offer internships and full-time positions as well for the people.
Man, those career fairs are worth their weight in gold, but I feel like it's hard to get people to go to them, even though there's like so much opportunity once you can get people to a career fair and like talk to people and connect. Do you guys have good luck with getting turnout, or is it hard? I feel like my generation and younger generations are just like getting more and more used to the digital kind of interaction with people, and so it's hard to get that in-person involvement. Is that what you're seeing as well?
Yeah, our career fair last year was online. It was our first time doing it. There were some challenges along the way since it was the first time. So actually, we're talking about this week how to mitigate those and how we can do better for this year. For But yeah, it's online, and I think it's very a lot of people showed up, and a lot of reputable companies wanted to join as well, which is very cool to see how much we're adding value not only for our community, but also companies are seeing the value that we have or that we are providing to this community too. So it's very fulfilling to see.
That's awesome. Yeah, you'll have to give me some tips. I'm in charge of setting up our booth this year at the career fair, so you'll have to give me some tips on what to do and what not to do. So, because I'll be trying to figure that out here in the next couple months. But
Yes, let's
that's
do it.
cool.
Yeah.
So you seem like, or in my all my interactions with you, you have been like actively seeking mentorship, but so I imagine you are very receptive to people like who are younger than you and like, kind of looking to be mentored. So it's like, are you in contact with people and like mentoring people right now, or like talk to me about that experience for you? Because I can tell that that is something that's meaningful for you.
Yeah, that's my bread and butter. All my friends are always saying like, "Why you're not a career coach?" I'm like, I'm not ready for that yet, but I do mentor. I currently have two mentees. One is a grad student, and the other she is now upcoming sophomore, a mechanical engineer as well. So I definitely, it's been very joyful to pass my nuggets of wisdom and remember the preoccupations and the questions that they have at their point of their career, and say like, oh, maybe you can look at like giving my perspective and giving my experience is definitely something that I wanted it to have and crave from very early on. And I am very appreciative that I am able today to be that person that gives back to people that actually care but don't have a blueprint of what a career in this field might look like.
That's awesome. That's inspiring to me, and I feel like I resonate a lot with that because like pretty much as soon as I was like had anything to offer, I was like, "Oh, like who wants to hear about it?" and like forcing my lessons learned on people whether they asked for it or not. So my wife gets on to me all the time. She's like, "You need to like stop giving people advice they're not asking for. Like hold your tongue, if they need help, they'll tell you. They're grown adults." But I am inspired by that, and I love that because I'm like that too, is just wanting to connect with people and like boost people up. So you got that, I forget what the Myers-Briggs or whatever test it is, but the like the yellow energy of like a booster or a supporter or like somebody that wants to see others succeed. So I like that. I like hearing about that. That's awesome. But cool. Well, have you been seeing any sorts of like trends or different topics in the industry right now? Let me think of one that, other than like the pretty common stuff like batteries, I've still been hearing a lot about. And then I do a lot of work in hangars. So there's been big talk about moving away from foam systems. And because they had these PFAS, which are these fluorinated chemicals that are carcinogenic and are harmful for people. So there's been a big wave of jobs and kind of industry push to make technology that doesn't utilize these chemicals. But what other kind of, have you been seeing any trends in the industry or anything that's been just like popping up at work more, maybe?
Definitely the phone topic came up recently because I think one of the big companies that offer certain phone product was being sued, I think. So definitely that came up recently. But besides that, honestly, I've been the was the I had experienced the other time not that long ago with racks. I've never dealt with racks in storage. So that was very interesting for me to like connect the dots that, oh, what do you mean that we it makes sense that we need more demand, but then like how do we like assess for that in the fire suppression? Like
Oh
how does this
man.
work? So that was very interesting. Thankfully my manager was like really spoon fed me the concept and I could like understand what we were doing. But definitely that was very new for me.
Wow, yeah, that's a hard topic. That's a really like nuanced and complex topic. Those rack configurations can be so crazy. I've been working with them for years, and I still feel like I can't really figure them out a lot of times. Like, uh, it's like, are they back-to-back racks? Are they solid bin box or solid pile bin box or like materials? Like,
How
how
tall
big are
are
the
they?
aisles? How tall
Right.
are they? Like, it just does the factors or things to observe just go on for it's like a list of 30 different things. And so, yeah, that's a difficult topic. Well, I don't have too much more for you, Jayra. I really like talking with you. Anything else that you want to cover while we're on the horn and chatting? Or I'd be happy to. I think we've talked about some great stuff. We could end it here too.
Yeah, no, I was thinking because I mentioned to you when we were exchanging messages about your episode with one of your mentees. I believe his
Hmm.
name is Matt.
Matt King, yeah.
Yes, Matt King. And I just wanted to do you what does mentorship for you looks like? I think that's a question that keeps looping on my mind after hearing that
Mm,
episode.
I think that mentorship for me is a reciprocal thing, and like I think that Matt I'm not always the best at reaching out. I wish I was better at it. I want to practice and be better at it, but I just don't know like I know people are busy. Just that I don't want to be a burden thing. It's again in me that is a common thread, but Matt will reach out to me and talk to me and we'll have lunch or we'll like correspond or he'll tell me how things are going or he'll run into some issue at work, whether that's just professionally or technically, and we'll call and talk about it. And so, really, it just looks like a friendship and but like with professional underpinnings, of same technical and life things to go through to where I have some value to give him and, his energy, his spirit, his willingness to learn and to act on what we talk about and kind of uh, what he is passionate about in his career, like that is reward for me. Like I learn out of that by having that relationship. And so when I say like reciprocity, I don't mean like I give you this, you give me that. I mean like that the relationship is a good one for both people, even if that's just like respect in correspondence and thoughtful, just like life interaction. Like that is respect to me. That is a mutually beneficial relationship. It's hard. It's hard for the mentee and it's hard for the mentor when you are just giving and giving and giving, and somebody is just taking and taking and taking or not reciprocating. So, um, yeah, I don't know. That's a little bit for me. It just looks like a friendship or a friendly correspondence with professional underpinnings. But I don't know if that answers your questions, but I at least rambled on it for a little bit.
No, it does answer my question, and it makes sense, and it's interesting because I do see mentorship in a very similar way. It should be like a two-ended interaction, and both parties should bring value, and it doesn't mean like, oh, you need to give knowledge per se, but definitely into the exchange. I would hope, or my mindset whenever I'm talking with mentors would be, what can I say, or what value I can add from my perspective? But there's definitely, there's different life experiences, different professional experiences. So definitely there's always value, and being willing share knowledge. I feel like even if you think and I say from the younger side of my career, like even if you think that you don't have quote unquote expertise or value to add, it's very interesting to still kind of discuss your findings. And I've come to find out, oh, like people learn from the things that I have to say, even if I think that they're not relevant. If I hope I'm making sense, but
No, yeah, no. I think you're 1,000% right because, I've been working with a couple of the guys I work with. My firm's real small. It's only 4 people, and they have, 10, 15 years of experience, and you don't realize it, but you forget how you learned some things as time goes on. And so one of the ways you provide value as a mentee is like reminding them of important parts of their process or their learning method or their framework for problem solving that they don't even think about anymore because they're so good that it is subconscious and there is no active thought about how they are moving through a technical topic or a business relationship topic. And so that is a piece of value that you add as a mentee that's not on the surface, but anybody who is astute about that relationship will pick that up and be like, yeah, you're teaching me stuff too. Like, I didn't even know I was thinking about like these 6 things. I just like was moving through it like it was the task I've done a million times. So um, there's always value, even if it's not explicit kind of like, I need this. I need you to respond to everything I say to you. No, it's not like that. It's not evil and it's not like transactional. It's just
right.
like a relation, respect and a back and forth.
Yes. No, absolutely.
But cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Jayra. I really enjoyed talking to you as I always do, and we'll be in touch. Thank you again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And it's great catching up with you. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Be sure to share the episode with a friend if you enjoyed it. Don't forget that fire protection and life safety is serious business. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are by no means a professional consultation or a codes and standards interpretation. Be sure to contact a licensed professional if you are getting involved with fire protection and or life safety. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.